I want to talk about what's going on in politics right now. We see the current president is using a lot of the levers of power that are available to him in taking steps, hopefully in something as big as infrastructure. He's getting checks in the American people's pocket. We obviously have many people in this country in elected office who speak ill of big government. Would you make the case, based on the time we're living in right now, that sometimes big government is a helpful tool?
Sometimes it's helpful. It always can be helpful if it's properly directed. But in a time like this, it's essential. Look, don't forget, I gave you the first balanced budget in 3 decades, and we did 3 in a row, and I left a 4th, and we paid $600 billion down on the national debt, which was real money back then. This is not that kind of time. We had a crash in 2008, which blew a $3 trillion hole in the economy. Then we have the coronavirus crash, which was bigger. For all the stimulus money that's been spent, we're still about 3 million jobs short of where we were before this thing started. When there is negative growth and 0 interest rates, only the government can provide the impetus to jumpstart the economy. And since we're doing it, the president has a plan to try to shape the future with modernized infrastructure, including broadband for all these small towns and rural areas, and a lot of transfer to clean energy, but things that are generating jobs, and a big plan to help small businesses. And if we hadn't done that, God only knows how many million people would have been thrown out of our apartments. Too many lost their jobs as it was. So, yeah, I think people need to just park this cussing the government for a while. Let's get the thing back to, ground zero and start growing again. Then we can argue about how much the government should do.
And it does seem to be the discussion du jour in American politics is, what would you do about the filibuster if it was up to you?
Well, the filibuster was set up to ensure prolonged debate. It was used in the civil rights era to try to kill civil rights bills. And starting in about 1993 or 4, it started to be used all the time. And it was used on President Obama. So it's now been used to try to prevent a repeat of 2020 when we had the enormous voter participation. So all the states that are in the hands of people who don't like that and want to maintain a racial income differential are trying to make it harder to vote. I understand the president's reluctant to get rid of it altogether, and I sympathize with Joe Manchin, who's trying to, stand up for the right thing and represent people that voted more than 2 to 1 for President Trump. But I think when it comes to preserving democracy, I would suspend the filibuster because I think it's essential. I don't think that we should be in the business of going backwards in trying to drive down voting rights. I think we need to expand it. And I think that every time we've done it before, it's made us a better country, it's made us a stronger country. And it'll do both parties good to have to get out and compete for all these new voters. So yes, if it were me, for this one purpose, I would not allow an expansion and basically a protection of voting rights. These guys are trying to take us back decades in voting access, the people that Senator McConnell represents.
James, you've had in your books, The President's Gone Missing. The President's Daughter's Gone Missing. I sense a theme. If there's going to be a trilogy of books from you guys, what do you think?
People really like animals, so,
It does feel like,
puppies.
The president. Maybe it's a whole litter. The president, the president's dog has a litter and they all go missing.
Yeah, you never know. The president's family wants him to go missing. Will he do that?
Yeah. We're in talks. You're
in talks. When do you know? Last question. When do you know the book is done? Like when you guys are working on it, is it your job to say, as the expert, like this is it, we got it, send it off?
Once again, it's just never come up. But the other thing that the president does is he really insists that the characters are as deep as we can make them, as complex, rounded characters. And that's probably the last thing that we do in terms of all right, this villain is a cliche rather than a real human being. And that's probably the last thing we do. And at a certain point, I just go, I give up. It's over. It's done. It's done. And then there it is, the president's daughter.
Well, congratulations. I
Thanks.
do think both of you, not just one of you, both of you are going places. I mean, the president's daughter's out now.